everybody. Welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
Hi, guys. My name is Joe.
Now, for those of you that watch the channel regularly, you're probably going to be surprised. I didn't expect to have Joe here on the channel or even use his name. But Joe and I have talked about things, and if you know, like what I talked about last week, we're being a little bit careful, but Joe has, it's cool, I think, to have you on the channel.
Yeah, there's nothing to be careful of. We've been, good the whole time. It's just there's forces out there looking to wreak havoc on your life, and that's what Sharon created this channel about. So I have to be very mindful of those forces until I'm divorced from that force.
Yes, it's not over yet, but once it is, Joe and I are going to rip that duct tape off our mouths, right? Especially you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right, so I'm happy to have you here. I'm very happy to have you here.
You guys, we used to do this every weekend, and we usually do it on a Saturday night, and something was just kind of, it was like about 7 o'clock in the evening, and I was like thinking, why does it, don't we usually do something on Saturday? Why does it feel weird? And Sharon was like, it's going to suck not to be able to do this every week. And I was like, no, we got to do something,
Yeah, and I'm so happy. I'm actually very excited.
Thank you.
Because I was going to miss that, doing that with you.
Yeah, it's very therapeutic for us. It helps other people out. As I said, we're mindful. We're not throwing anybody or names under the bus or anything like that at all, or character assassinating anyone. As a matter of fact, we are the ones that were character assassinated with the smear campaigns.
That's the truth, yeah.
But, I just, there's certain things that need to pass for me to feel a little bit more safe.
So, Joe, thank you. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Did you want to talk a little bit about what we decided to do?
Yeah, we were talking, we got a comment about a week or two ago, and it was, hey, whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. We we take on all the comments.
Yeah, I don't censor comments.
No, not at all. She mentioned something about, I think Sharon had her adult daughter on, and talking about the ex-narcissist, and Sharon got some kind of feedback that you're teaching your daughter to hate or something, and not forgive, and this and that, all that happy horse shit. And I was like, forgiveness? I was like, that's what got my dumb ass, my codependent ass into trouble to begin with, was forgiving and taking back and forgiving and taking back. And I'm not one to resentment rots the container it sits in. When you're dealing with a codependent and forgiveness, we take it to a whole nother level.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's actually that forgiveness is a double-edged sword for codependent people, and narcissists smell that and they will take advantage of it. It's like blood and water sharks.
That's the truth. Joe used to think, my kids call their father by his first name. They don't call him dad. And Joe used to kind of be against that. He didn't think it was right. He thought...
I wasn't against it. I was just neutral on it, but I was just if it were me, I wouldn't. You don't encourage it. That's what they call it.
Oh, it happened naturally. Yeah, I didn't tell them to do that.
As time went on, and I'm a quick forgetter sometimes. And that's part of the reason why we do this too. And I can't afford to forget. Not with this force of nature out there. I finally got it.
Yeah.
It was the goal.
It was when we were talking about this comment. You were you said it then. Yeah.
The goal is to steer clear of the tornado.
Yeah.
To not cross paths with the tornado. And you call it a tornado for what it is, a tornado. And narcissists are F5 tornadoes. People with cluster B personality disorders, for the most part, are category, EF5.
Yeah, we had a good conversation when we were talking about that comment. And Joe, he said to me, he's like, Sharon, I get it. They have to stay away. They stay away. There's nothing there. There's not a relationship. There's not, and it's not that forgiveness is out of the realm, but forgiveness has to be for you. You can never forgive a narcissist and make it be okay.
Well, yeah, it's not the kind of forgiveness where it's just cool, you come back in my life.
Yeah.
And Sharon and I were talking about this. One of my kids is struggling a little bit, and it's I had to drop levels below where I was at to meet with the narcissist, as opposed to them leveling up to where I was at. And when I stoop to their level, it's not where I belong. My soul screams, the red flags signal. And, forgiveness is one thing. If somebody levels up and makes amends, to actually change their ways, to takes responsibility for the actions and tries to set things right and comes up to your level, hey, cool. If you want to hang out with them still and this and that, but it's a forgiveness, but it's a different kind of forgiveness. We don't teach hate. I told you how I feel about harboring a resentment. I told Sharon one time in a car about a couple months ago, the greatest accomplishment of my life was divorcing a narcissist. And you guys, if any normal person was out there, they'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, even me, my belief system was that sounds like a failure.
Yes.
However, when you deal with the category EF5 tornado, like higher end narcissist, like malignant, psychopathic, sociopathic tendencies, that makes all the sense in the world. Because what I accomplished was I overcame my codependency.
Yeah.
And that in itself, I got in contact with the little kid that was traumatized when he was little. Screw the narcissist. How about what I overcame with God's help, of course.
Overcoming codependency is a huge accomplishment.
I guess it's like one and the same. So when you hear somebody say no contact, or what do you mean getting divorced is a great, they weren't entangled with a sociopathic, malignant, freaking evil force.
We need
narcissist.
each other, all of us who have experienced narcissism, because the reality is that other people can't understand it. They just can't.
Yeah, and the most frustrating part, you guys, is going through a divorce, and even normal people, they don't get it. It's when you have kids, the other parent, she's like a third kid, but she's the bad influence kid.
Yeah.
I have I got two boys. And she's like a third kid, but she's the one that's the troublemaker. And she's not a parent, and trying to explain that to a judge, or an attorney, or even another adult, they don't get it, man.
Well, when I was at my mediation, so a lot of I have full custody of my son. That was something that I got in the divorce, and that was something I needed to have. Now, to be fair, my ex didn't fight me on that. He just gave up his son. But my attorney said to me at one point, because my ex decided that he wanted to have a relationship with my son, despite what my son wants. It didn't matter.
And despite the history.
Yeah, what he's done, it didn't matter. And,
no, it was just he's considered a human being, and when we say human beings, we're talking when Sharon and I think of narcissists as a different species. I mean, of course, biologically speaking, they're human, but they're a subcategory. When you take out empathy, that just is it's some kind of subcategory. It's not normal.
Think about just yourself. If you literally had zero empathy, what would you be capable of doing?
Well, even as humans, we're capable, even with empathy. I mean, without it, it's there's no there, and then add on that an unwillingness to want to change.
Yeah. Well, they can't even fathom it. They can't go there.
There's no willingness to grow.
No.
There's little to no intuition or insight. There's just, they don't. We made a video a long time ago about where you have a Christian background or faith, giving props to Jesus for saving my ass.
Yes, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. But we talked about, there was the one sin, I remember when I was a little kid, that's unforgivable. It was blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. And I always wondered in my head, I wonder what, and it dawned on me a couple years ago, the sin, the unpardonable sin, blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, to me, is when you do something so horrific and you're not willing to take accountability for it, and you're truly not sorry, and you're not doing nothing to change, because how can God forgive you if you don't ask for forgiveness and you don't take accountability for what you've done? So it makes sense then that it's this blasphemy of truth. It's an inverted nature. They don't so when you deal with inverted nature, when you hear of no contact, or for me, divorce was the greatest accomplishment of my life. You have to put it in the context of what kind of evil force you're in with, because this, to me, is much more of a spiritual battle than psychological or emotional.
100%.
And then it's like I got my own baggage, my own codependency, low self-worth, low self-esteem. God, man, the narcissists, they smell that.
Oh.
And I think what attracts them to us is our empathy. I don't think they're
Yes.
cognitively thinking like,
Yes.
oh, that person has empathy. They're like, oh, to them, oh, this person's a sucker.
Yes.
Like, love to them, forgiveness is a liability. And they take that and they warp it and gaslight and manipulate and just twist your world upside down.
The narcissist, just to go back for a minute to my son and why I was really upset about, I did not want my son to have a relationship with his father because my son didn't want it, and because this creature abused him horribly. He showed up at my house with a loaded gun. He broke into my house, and I'm supposed to be okay with this, but my attorney said to me, and this is the problem, like the narcissist just says words. They can say whatever, and they get our kids that way too.
Yeah.
Because she's like, well, if you resist this too
Then
much,
you look like a bad parent.
Well,
or
yes,
something.
exactly. Yes, exactly.
It's
Other
like,
people don't get it. The judge doesn't get it. Oh, this is his daddy wants to have a relationship with his son. It doesn't matter.
well, even if the judge does get it, and he's like, he's a slack, he's a deadbeat dad. No, he's worse.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how lower you get when you're dealing with like NPD, like malignant kind, higher end spectrum.
And we really are outside of the mainstream in the sense that people don't get it. They don't get it. Because I get it. Like if I was just this mother who I was mad at my ex, and I'm like, well, you know what? I don't want him to have a relationship with the kids. That isn't how it is, but you sound that way when a judge hears it, or
They twist it.
Yeah.
They're master manipulators,
Yes.
and they're chameleons. They blend in. That's how they survived all this time. They're bottom feeders. They're the surface dwellers. They're just so. Getting back to the forgiveness part of it is just like, forgive whatever. My forgiveness, my last act of love, of empathy, was to go no contact.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of reactive abuse verbally and stuff like that. Of course, when your ex takes a whole bunch of money from you and is gone for 4 days, comes back like it's Pete's Wayside Inn, all is good. You're not like saying, hey, honey, how you doing?
Yeah.
But I don't have to deal with the toxic guilt. The no contact is just saying, you don't have a right to do that, not only to me, to anybody. And I'm no longer going to enable you to, because basically to them, when you forgive them like that and you take them back, it's like, oh, okay, I guess it's cool. I can do it again.
Yes, they
I wonder
don't-
how much farther I could push the goalpost. Let's see until they push it. In my case, it was pushed so far, God basically said, hey, you dumbass, like
That happened to me too.
You have it out now. Like, I'm telling you, it's okay. You don't have to believe this false thing of divorce is like a sin, and it was all had to do with my childhood when my father left my brother and I. It was a mind F like no other.
For a long time, and this is where when Joe said to me, we were talking about that comment, and he's like, no, I get it. I get why they call him his first name. Those kids need to stay the F away. Just stay away, 100%. And I'm thinking to myself, for so long, when I was married to him, when I was living with him, he would do horrendous things. And I thought to myself, oh, well, I need to be a good wife. I need to forgive him. It says I need to forgive people. So I literally, it was almost like I was patting myself on the back, like, yes, you are a good wife because you're forgiving him. But what I was doing was giving him, he's thinking to himself, consciously or not, oh, God, I can do whatever I want. It doesn't matter. She's going to forgive me, sucker.
It's a very tricky, and I don't want to get controversial, but if what would happen then in my case is I would teach my son my codependent ways. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Recognize abuse. Understand that you were abused by your parent, and that you don't have to feel guilty about, but I feel bad, or no, they're not your child. You're the child. Your job is to level up and continue to grow. If ever in their life, and don't get your expectations up, they come up to that level, they change, they make amends, which I tell them, don't put your expectations up, but they must meet you at that level. You do not go back down to that level, because then the generations of garbage continue. There's more codependency, and we're here to, as I said, I gave props to Jesus, like, to break the chains and the bonds that bind us. And we're part of the problem. Our brain, our thinking was part of the problem. And it needed, in my case, a manifestation externally with this entanglement with the narcissist to have enough pain to be able to look inward with God's help and become free. It's my job not to pass those codependent traits on to my children. It's to the best of my ability.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. Joe and I were talking about that. When this commenter initially said, oh, you should teach your daughter forgiveness and love.
We do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I don't teach her to hate.
It was just an empty, I commented too, and I have a pretty witty way of...
Joe has a razor-sharp tongue.
I got a witty way of being able to comment, and I love actually comments like that. Because I have a lot of pent-up frustration going on in my life. A lot of times I get to take it out in a play of words, so to speak. But yeah, obviously she's never had a run-in with a high-end spectrum narcissist.
If I had taught my children, you know what?
It's okay to be abused. Basically, it's okay to be abused.
He doesn't know.
Blood is thicker than water, and all that
God.
happy horse shit. Then they would have been playing into these.
And then we have another generation.
Of codependence and possible narcissists.
Yes.
And it's just like...
We have to teach our children, or Joe and I feel this way anyways, we have to break these chains. If you are codependent, you are chained to a miserable fate. You will never have the relationship that you could.
A lot of people say, I call it switching the seats of the Titanic. They break up with this narcissist, and boom, what happens? They're with another narcissist. It's just a different face and a different name. So when I say higher end spectrum, you're dealing with not just narcissism, but what do you call it, Sharon?
Malignant narcissist?
No, many different, not just narcissism, but...
comorbid?
Yeah, comorbid conditions. I just call it multi-level effed up. So you're dealing with a drug addict, and it's just, hey, it's cool to drink around the kids, and they could drink with you, and live in, the ghetto, that shit ain't happened with my minor.
No. Oh my gosh. My ex this is something he used to do, and it used to drive me crazy. He would just pass out in places. So we would be at church. He would pass out. He was literally nodding off in church. And then he would do this thing I was going to think it was so cute. When I would push him and be wake up, he would look at me and give me this little smile, it was so cute. And that's what they do.
Well, they're very, the audacity of... If it were a normal person, you'd be telling your children, I suppose the narcissists are normal, but you'd say, this other parent that has been taking care of you and protecting you and raising you, you listen to them. They're doing, you need them and they need you, and you respect them, and they would encourage the children to grow.
True. Yes.
And what they do is they point out your faults, and they'll magnify that times 100, and then it's just... There's no rhyme or reason.
Against us, 100%.
Yeah, Sharon, you mentioned something about this force I'm dealing with, that she hates me more than she loves my son. Yeah, it's she threw him under the bus, and it's I'm just struggling, you guys. And when this shit's over, there'll be no holding back. We didn't hold back before. We were always very thoughtful and conscientious. There was no name dropping. There was no just smashing around or trashing somebody's name. None of that was done.
We've always spoken what's happened. Anything that's been said that's negative is something factual that happened, but it's never been where we're making fun of somebody,
or here's their name and here's their address.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just you know what, I'm mad at my ex, so Joe, let's just make fun of him tonight. It was never that. Never.
Yeah, so I have to watch you guys. I don't have to, but I want to, because I'm almost at the end of the...
There's so much to lose, and we just need to just be a little...
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is.
General...
Yeah.
And talk about topics like this.
Yeah.
So To that person that commented, thank you for the comment, and I always welcome like different thoughts and different ideas. A lot of times I look at it from their perspective. I'm like, "Oh, that's a really neat way to look at it."
Yeah.
You know, my mind is not set in stone. I'm definitely teachable. Forgive, but don't forget. But the type of forgiveness where it's all good and I'm going to level down to your level
Just
and hang
because
out.
somebody is your parent or your brother or your sister or whoever it is.
It doesn't matter, man.
Exactly.
There's some people out there that are
Yeah.
like blood's thicker than water. It
Yes.
doesn't matter. I'm like, well, that's what I thought, and I was codependent.
Joe and I have talked about this. Like, both of us, when we look back at our family tree, there is like codependent and narcissist way back. It's a conscious effort that we have to make sure we have this dream that our grandchildren are never going to know this. They're never going to know it, and it starts with us.
They'll know it, but at a cognitive level and not experience it.
Yes,
because we don't want to let them know that there's evil out in the world. And
Yeah.
I always share my experience of what happened to me, but not in a way where they're going to live it like I did.
Exactly. So, guys, I think forgiveness is good, but forgetting is not, and living your life where it's okay. Oh, this is like in my case, it's my father. So, you know what? I'm still going to hang out with him and do things, even though he lies, cheats, steals, like abuses me, blew up the family. It's not okay.
Yeah, it's not okay. It's just not, man. And forgiveness could be no contact. Like that was it. I forgave myself. I forgave the narcissist. It's like, I don't know. You know, there's an argument. Are they aware? Are they not? I think they're conscious half the time, and half the time they're not. I know that I was half the time conscious and half the time not. I was a codependent and didn't even know it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it started. As soon as I started working on myself, I leveled up even more, and the chances of them changing are just...
They're so remote.
They're remote. Even the ones that are self-aware, they even know, like, it doesn't mean I'm not a narcissist. It just means that I've been given tools to be able to respond differently. I could throw a chink in the armor where it stops, and before I actually react, I could respond instead and catch myself. But it's far and few in between, and I don't keep my expectations up, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, I agree. So forgiveness, for yourself so that you can move forward, good. But Joe thinks it's a huge mistake to teach our children to just carte blanche, like forgiveness.
Yeah, no matter what, and then you go hang out with somebody and let them shit on you again.
And it's just going to be pain all the way around.
Yeah, no contact is the way, man.
I agree. All right, well, Joe, thank you. I'm so happy that you're here because I didn't expect it. And when Joe said like he would do this, I was so happy. I was excited.
Yeah, it was good for me. I missed not being able to share a little bit and get some feedback. So
we'll still have Joe on the channel. We'll just keep it a little quieter until the whole thing's over.
Yeah,
right?
then Pandora's box will unleash.
Oh, then you're gonna want to be here. So don't forget to subscribe.
Lots of good stuff and advice. More suggestions than anything like going through a divorce with a narcissist. What to expect, what not to expect, what to do, what not to do, and just sharing my experience in that.
Also, I think what's going to be good for the channel, and this is something that Joe and I like to do anyways, this is part of our show, is we have the male and female perspective. There's a difference between a male going through a divorce with a narcissist and a female. We can talk about those things. Now that Joe and I are both really close to the end, we have so much to share with you. We're going to tell you things that we wish we knew at the beginning, and it's only going to help you guys.
Yep, and even if you're not married, but you're in a relationship, still, if you're thinking about going or the reds, you're finally paying attention to the red flags. There's always something in it.
And we can talk about that too, like how we were at the end, what it took. For both Joe and I, it took something dramatic to actually end the entanglement. But maybe if we had known about this earlier, if we had some type of insight, we could have done it differently.
What we're trying to do, you guys, is bring the bottom up so you don't have to go down as far as we did. And also share that if we could do it, anybody could do it.
100%. I hope everybody has a great week. I will see you on Wednesday. And Joe, hopefully I'll see you next Monday.
God willing, yep.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.